Jacqui Berlinn, and this is Gina. We are co-founders of Mothers Against Drug Deaths. We welcome you to our rally for the first National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. Our message today is to address the question of what has fentanyl and the open drug markets stolen from you. We are here to rally for more prevention and treatment in San Francisco. Our speakers today include first responders, parents, advocates for recovery, community leaders, business owners, and also joining us today is going to be the San Francisco District Attorney, Brooke Jenkins, and supervisors Dorsey, Ahsha Safai, and Rafael Mandelman. On the steps around us, we have placed hand-painted rocks. Each one of these represents a life lost to overdose in San Francisco just this year, from January through July. There are nearly 350 rocks, which means over nearly 350 people have passed away in San Francisco from January to July due to drug overdose. Too many lost. Overdose is the #1 killer of 18 to 45-year-olds in our nation. Number one. We are here today to come together as a united community, to tell our own stories and to hear solutions for change. Change is necessary because the current situation is untenable. We want parents to be able to walk their kids to school safely without them seeing and having drugs normalized, drug use and sales normalized in their communities. We want thriving businesses that don't have to worry about getting vandalized or stolen from. We want the sick on our streets, the mentally ill, and the drug addicted to get the services that they need to help them get well. We want change, and that's what this rally is about. Change can happen when the community works together with local leaders and law enforcement, forging through these difficult times for a common goal, a life livable for all, and promoting treatment, rehabilitation, and health for every citizen in San Francisco. We'd like to welcome our next speaker, Pinto. He is a firefighter with San Francisco Fire Department, and we are grateful to have him.
Hey, thank you for having me here. My name is Martin-Pinto. I'm a firefighter here in San Francisco. I work over at Station 17 in Bayview, but I used to work here a couple blocks away a few years ago. Sometimes I still do work down here on occasion, and just want to kind of share my experiences as a firefighter, kind of what I've seen. And Station 36, which is a station right down here, is the third busiest station in San Francisco. They run about 15 to 25 calls a day. The last time I worked here back in December, it was about that many calls, and it had been bad before. I had seen open air drug markets happening all night, every night I worked. It was like a festival of just nonstop drug use at Civic Center, 6th Edition, and but it had gotten a lot worse actually this last time I worked here. And seeing that as a first responder, it's very disheartening because we'll always do our job. I love this city I'm from here, born and raised, and we'll always try our hardest to provide the best top quality medical care to anybody, regardless of what happened. But it's really time for the city leaders to do their job and hold up their end of the bargain and shut down the open air drug markets. So that's really all I gotta say. It's just that it's really disheartening to see. As a first responder, like I said, I'll always do my job, but when you see these open air drug markets proliferate like they're doing, you kind of have to wonder, does anybody notice? Does anybody care? But I'm glad to see that we're all here today because we all do care, and hopefully we'll send the message to City Hall that they should care too. Otherwise, we will find somebody who does. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam Mesnick. I own Deli Board in South Market. I'd like to first thank everybody for being here. I think it's absolutely an important crisis that we all need to discuss openly. I'd like to send a shout out to the mothers who, without your strength, your ability, your vocalness, your voices, we would be nowhere. I know all your children. I know the children who have died here. I know the children that live on the street by my house. I've seen so much tragedy and so much death. It's absolutely astounding. To me, at this point, to see the group grow as time goes on is one of the only parts of the solution that I feel comfortable with at this point. It is absolutely true sadness to see the rocks below me. I cannot believe the line of mothers, the line of support, and very few leaders from San Francisco City Hall. Where are the leaders from City Hall? Where is the Department of Public Health? Where are the people who are in charge of Health Right 360? The harm reduction people? Where is the strength in numbers that they're going to bring to the mothers? What are they going to do for the mothers? That's what I ask. Where are the groups of people who are not here today? Where are they for the mothers? Where are they for the addicts? And where are they for you? Period. Period. I have nothing else. I hope that someone comes up with a real good idea, because this is bullshit.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanya Tilghman. I am a mother, and I do kind of have an idea. Maybe we shouldn't be passing SB 57 bill and funding it. Maybe we need to take the money and put it into residential treatment programs and rehabilitation. Certainly not saying that it is okay to use illegal drugs. My son has been homeless for almost 2 years. He started off with a diagnosis of ADHD when he was in 6th grade. He was put on Adderall. And I didn't know anything about it at the time. He stayed on Adderall until high school, and I saw that he was misusing it, so I pulled it from him. I blame myself sometimes because I probably should have weaned him off of it and talked to a doctor about it, but I didn't. Ever since then, my life has spun out of control. My family's life has spun out of control. He started using drugs recreationally. He has mental health issues. He's bipolar, almost schizophrenic, and he couldn't understand why he got addicted and his friends didn't. He would ask me, why me? Why did I become addicted? Well, I didn't even know anything about addiction, but now I do. And my answer is because, you know what, genetically, you were prone to be addicted because it runs in my family, and so does mental health. So I'm gonna fast forward. He's been on drugs for a long time. It came to the point where my younger son told me, Mom, you have to make a choice between me and my older brother because our life is so chaotic at home. You're not paying attention to me, and all you're doing is you're living for my brother and not me, and he has to go. So I had to put my son out onto the streets. It's something a mother never wants to do, but I did it. And he's been homeless for 2 years. He's been in San Francisco, Sacramento. We have been trying to navigate a system that is setting us up to fail. I can't afford to send him to a private healthcare facility, rehabilitation facility. I don't have the funds for that. So we tried to use San Francisco Health Right 360, and I can tell you how hard it is. People think it's easy to tell people to get off drugs, but when you're a mother and you have to take off from work, and I'm single and I don't have money, and I have to take off from work and wait hours
for my son to be seen, not even by somebody who has a medical license or certification, and they're going to determine whether or not my son will get a referral to get into rehab. I'm sorry, San Francisco, there's something wrong with that. Why do we have to wait hours for my son to get into rehab to tell us he's not a candidate? Because they thought we were just trying to use the system because I had put him out on the streets and we were looking for a bed, a free bed. Really? He was really trying to get off of drugs. So this is what we have to go through, people. We have to go through a circle all the time. It drove him to go do drugs more because he got tired of spending hours of waiting so he could get treatment. And so one day in March, he got a hold of the wrong drug, came into my house, put his hand through my house, put his hand on my neck. I had over 15 police officers in North Beach. It did not make the news, but I had them there. They had rifles pointed at my house and guns. They had to call a hostage negotiator to get my son out of the house because he was holding himself hostage. And I want to thank the San Francisco Police Department. They did an awesome job of getting my son out alive. It took over 2 hours, but thankful for the hostage negotiator, he was able to talk my son out of the house, and now my son is currently in jail, safe. But as you know, we're in San Francisco. They like to release people. They like to release addicts and people with mental health onto the streets. And I know legally, my son has the right to get help because he committed a crime while he was under the influence and has a mental health condition. And there is a loophole here, folks. He should be going to behavioral court right now. And San Francisco should be helping him to get off drugs, not put his butt out on the street. Because if they do that, San Francisco, I guarantee you my son is gonna be a name on one of those frames, and I'm here to prevent that. Stop killing our people. Don't do it, Gavin Newsom. Do not pass SB 57. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody. My name is Matt Dorsey, and I am a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, representing District 6, South Market, among other neighborhoods. It was the convergence of a public health crisis in drug overdoses in San Francisco and my own personal journey in recovery from drug addiction that moved me to ask Mayor London Breed a few months ago to consider me as her appointee to the Board of Supervisors. And I will tell you that in the 3.5 months that I have been on the board, not a single day goes by that I don't hear from someone whose life is touched by what I'm here for and what you're here for. The record-shattering crisis in drug overdose deaths, the level of drug scenes and open-air drug dealing that we have seen that is unprecedented. It is friends I've known from years ago who share with me that I lost 2 nephews to drug overdoses. Or the guy who shouts across the store to me about, hey Dorsey, 6 years sober here. It's about the people who say that they're 30 days sober and it means the world to them to know that there is a supervisor who's got the same disease they have.
Thank you.
And I'm reminded because 4.5 decades ago, Harvey Milk stood on these very steps and he talked about what it means to represent a community that has too often been forgotten and marginalized. I sit at Harvey Milk's desk in the Board of Supervisors, and in many ways, as a gay man, I feel the weight of history on that, but I'm also reminded about how powerfully he spoke when he was a pioneering gay supervisor right here in San Francisco. He talked about what it was to get a phone call from a young man in Altoona, Pennsylvania, or San Antonio, Texas, and what it meant. He talked about what it meant to represent communities that aren't heard and aren't seen, and they're too often forgotten. He talked about it. They're the us's, the us's. And today, those of us who struggle with substance use disorder, who find our way back to recovery, who work to get other people's into recovery, and who stand together to mourn those who didn't make it. I'm reminded that when Harvey Milk talked about the identities and what it means to represent communities that aren't heard or seen, that as he said, without hope, you know, that we can't live by hope alone, but it's hope that makes life worth living. And I'm reminded that just by what I'm trying to do and the reason that I'm on the board, that maybe there's somebody who's waking up in an alley in Main Street or in the Tenderloin, and they've got nothing to, they're at the end of their rope and they've got nothing to live for except for what the drug that they're addicted to is doing for them. And maybe, just like Harvey Milk talked about, if they hear that there's a supervisor, somebody who's got their disease, maybe that gives them something that they didn't have, and that's hope. And you, and you, and you, as Harvey Milk said, have got to give them hope. Thank you so much, everybody.
Hello. I'd like to thank the mothers, yes, for letting me speak today. I'd like to thank everyone here. In preparing to talk today, I was thinking a lot about what fentanyl has stolen from me and my family. It stole my daughter away from me. I researched families and what they've gone through, whose lives have been affected by fentanyl and other substances. And I wondered how people who are addicted, how they truly feel. One young addict, his story pretty well summed it up for me. I lost everything that I love for something that I hate. I can tell you, on this National Fentanyl Prevention Awareness Day, I can tell you fentanyl steals children, stole my relationship with my daughter, destroys families. I'm sorry. Because people who are addicted to drugs, the drugs overwhelm them. They only focus on that. They can't have any room in their life for the family. The open air drug markets makes it only easier access to these drugs like fentanyl and drugs laced with fentanyl. There's even more deadlier drugs right around the corner, ISO. And they're making their way here. What is fentanyl stolen from me? Stole my daughter. I was always proud of her. She's making good grades. She can speak 2 languages. She can speak Cantonese. She's half Chinese. She's on track. She's on ROTC. She did very well in school. And any obstacle that came in her way, me and her, we'd talk about it and we'd work it out. When she was 16, she became pregnant. I asked her, what are your plans? What do you plan to do? I told her, I'd back you up. It's your choice. But I told her, I said, you and your boyfriend, this baby's your responsibility. They decided to keep this baby, and he was a boy. My daughter and boyfriend and his family, we all worked together, and we made this baby have a happy and healthy life. My daughter and her boyfriend, they got married after high school. They both graduated. They worked hard. They had their own apartment. 8 years later, they had another baby. It was a baby girl. But a year or so after that, they divorced. They shared custody every other week with the kids, and it worked out. My daughter was a good mom. She worked for a bank. She's working her way through college. She loved her kids and her family. She's moving up in the world. She later found a boyfriend who swept her off her feet, but he had a secret. He had an addiction to heroin. She felt brokenhearted with his condition, and she got wrapped up in his world. She felt the need to save him. I tried to talk her out of this relationship, but this time I was no longer the go-to person for advice. She no longer confided in me. We grew further apart. She started leaving the children with me or her dad for prolonged periods of time. She began to lose things. She lost her job, her cars, her money. She'd leave home, she'd come home later, and she'd been beaten up or worse by people on the streets. She believed things that weren't true, see things that weren't real. Then one day she came to me and she says, "Mom, I'm addicted to meth and I need to get help. I've also taken fentanyl and heroin." I couldn't believe it, but now she wanted help, so I helped her. Me and my son-in-law, my kids' grandchildren's dad, we recommended her not to go in any place near San Francisco or San Jose because we told them the drug scene is too strong a draw, with the drugs sold out in the open market, with no one to stop their distribution. She picked a place near San Jose, and 2 months later she left rehab, and I didn't hear from her for about a month. She came home to stay for a week, and then she left again. January 26, 2021. She didn't say goodbye. I only saw her leave on a Ring camera. The next time I spoke with her was October the 21st, October 21. She told me she had been raped and was in jail. Her boyfriend was in jail. He wasn't there to help her anymore. She wanted me to bail her out, and I told her no. That would be safer for her in jail. I told her to go to court, and we'll work this out. Someone else either bailed her out, or the system released her. I haven't heard from her since. And with these drugs so easy to get, I may never hear from her again. My grandchildren, they look to me as some connection to their mom. This is not the job that I want. I want their mom to be here. And I pray to God every day for my family, and especially my daughter. Please come home. We love you. Today, on this National Fentanyl Awareness Day, I know what fentanyl has stolen from me and my family. They stole a daughter, my daughter. They stole a granddaughter, a niece, my grandchildren's mom. What is the open drug market steal? From my daughter and the substance addicted, a chance to recover because of the ease of access, which speeds their addictions as they close them down. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Keneda Gibson. I'd also like to thank Moms Against Drug Deaths for the opportunity to speak here today, and coming to advocate for my younger brother, Corey. who, came home from living in Las Vegas for many years in 2018. And we didn't realize that after being treated for gunshot wounds back in 2015, that he had found himself in addiction to opiates and had gone looking for them in the streets after the medical system had failed him and he didn't have proper care or a plan for it. Things began to snowball, especially during the offset of the pandemic. I guess, stress was high. I had been trying to help him previously. I didn't realize that his addiction was as bad as it was and that he had gone to seek heroin in the streets after coming home to Oakland, because things are so readily available, and in Vegas not so much maybe. And so after being homeless for a while, he found himself here in the city. And like I said, after the offset of the pandemic, he just didn't come home. And my family had got word one day that he had died. And so we went searching all throughout the city, all throughout San Francisco and Oakland, looking for different John Does at the morgue that fit the description. And even after not finding him and not being able to locate him, everyone had started the mourning process until I was contacted by someone online, Liz here, who told me that they had located my brother. And I was happy to know that he was alive, but after seeing him and realizing his quality of life, it really daunted me. Myself and my family, we went into a deep depression and a state of panic, wondering what it is that we can do. We started looking into what is fentanyl, what is this? Who's putting this out on the streets? And then we learned about the open drug market here in the city, and about how people travel from all around to come to San Francisco just to participate in this here open drug market. And it made me think, wow, San Francisco used to be the place of love, where people would come to have these experiences. Back in the day, I used to hear stories about people coming here for things like mushrooms and LSD. And once those studies had stopped, I guess things also began to snowball in the city. I know that there are a lot of folks who have lost their family members to these drugs. And I want to come from a place of telling you that I had to learn to be a more resilient person after dealing with this situation with my brother. I've always been the type of person to believe that if my brother is not okay, I am not okay. And so I began to spiral after a while into a very, very dark place in having nightmares and all of these different experiences after being reconnected with my brother and not knowing how to deal with that. And I had to separate the emotionality of it in order to be there for him and advocate for him, and in order to take care of myself and my family. I don't know how to tell people that they just have to separate the emotionality of it and search for creative resources and creative solutions to a problem that's plaguing all of our lives and our families and our loved ones who are out here. Like she said, San Francisco is killing people on the streets. Yes. I would like to see as a healer myself, a natural healer myself, I would like to advise people to take a look at some of those studies that were closed in the 60s and 70s around psychedelics. I know that there are people who are doing really amazing work at healing opiate addictions and meth addictions with high doses of mushrooms. I know that that's a lot to speak on right now. If anybody want to have those conversations with me afterwards, I'm happy to have more of those conversations. But if San Francisco wants to be known for something, don't be known for allowing people to come here and die. Allow people to come here and heal. Like, you have the opportunity and you have the name and you have the power to allow people to actually heal. So put the medicine on the streets and not the poison. That's all I really want to say. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. I'm Rafael Mandelman. I am the supervisor from District 8, the other gay on the Board of Supervisors. Always particularly happy today to be a backup dancer for Matt Dorsey. And I do want to just express my tremendous thanks and gratitude and sadness, solidarity for the moms, particularly standing out here in the heat. But to take the tragedy that you have experienced and to make that positive and go out and tell the world it's got to change, clearly has me a little verklempt. So, thank you. I do think it is important that folks acknowledge this day and acknowledge the tragedy that is happening in San Francisco and in cities up and down the West Coast. This is a San Francisco problem, but it is a California problem, and it is an American problem. And I think the voices that we hear today, they're still small, but they're growing. Oops, I guess my voice needs to get a little bit louder. Thank you. But your voices are growing stronger, and I think we'll ultimately have to carry the day. There's a lot of different opinions about a lot of different things here, but I think most of us agree, and I think most San Franciscans agree, that what we have on the streets of San Francisco today, and what we have with hundreds and hundreds of people dying every year from overdose, is not acceptable, and we have to change it. And that's a pretty basic thing, but it needs to be the most important thing for San Francisco, that mental illness, that severe mental illness and addiction are the biggest problem we have, and we need to put resources into getting help to the people that need help. And that does not mean allowing open-air drug markets or allowing encampments to persist in our public spaces. That is not helpful. In fact, the most important thing I think we could do is send out the message that the days of the encampments and the open-air drug sales is over in San Francisco. So that's pushed for, and that's a pretty basic thing, but we need everybody in this building to be in agreement about it. Now, you got 3 supervisors here, and there's one more who would be here. Thank you, Ahsha, for being here. I think you're going to hear from Ahsha Safai in a bit. Catherine Stephanie, I'm sure, would be here, except she's out of the city. But we need to end the open-air drug sales. We need to end the encampments. We need to have safe places for people to come in off the streets if they are willing to. And I saw Carolyn Kennedy here. I want to thank Rescue SF and all of you who worked so hard to make San Francisco a shelter for all city. Shouldn't be controversial, but it is. And then we need our public health system and our criminal justice system to step forward instead of stepping back. We need them to recognize that there are people who do not know they need help, who are causing harms to themselves and to their communities, and who need aggressive intervention. And if that can be through a social worker and assertive case management, great. If it needs to be through conservatorship, then it needs to be through conservatorship. And if the only way we can get to you is through the criminal justice system and you are committing crimes, then we need to use every tool at our disposal. And the other half of that, which anyone who has had a friend or someone they care about or a parent or a kid with severe mental illness or addiction knows it is too hard to get treatment. For people who want it, it needs to be available now. And every single year, San Francisco claims that we are a treatment-on-demand city, and it is a lie. To put an end to that lie, we actually need to have treatment for folks who are willing to seek it, and we need to do everything we can to increase the demand for treatment, which I don't frankly see anybody trying to do except, you all, and thanks Steve Adami from Adult Probation, and yep, Steve Adami deserves some applause. So I'm really just here, the moms are the people who are eloquent and the people who we need to hear from, but you do have my support and my solidarity, and it's the most important thing for San Francisco, and I will do everything I can for as long as I am in this building to change how we do things and to make San Francisco a city that makes more sense. Thanks, everybody.
To do this. She is the leader of this city. It's not just up to everybody else. She's the leader. That's the beginning of the problem, people. Pay attention. Where's the DA who said she was going to be here? I don't see her.
Hi, I'm Tammy, and I am an alcoholic in recovery. This is my son, Daniel Dale. Say his name.
Daniel Dale!
He was found dead on May 7th of a fentanyl overdose. I want to thank Mothers Against Drug Deaths. I want to thank my support group for coming. I want to thank all of you for being here. This is very important to me as a mother who is lost for words about this insidious drug invading our nation. I live in San Diego, California, and I flew here to be here today with everyone. And my heart goes out to all the parents, brothers, sisters, dads, moms, all of you that have been touched by this deadly drug. And all the other drugs that are just flowing into our nation. We have an open border policy right now in San Diego. I live very close to the border. I don't want to get too political here, but I want to tell you that our policy must change.
Yes! Yes!
Okay, about 2 weeks ago, there was a 250-pound bust of fentanyl, enough to kill every person in the United States. That's a lot. And it keeps coming in, and it keeps coming in. Let me tell you about my son, Daniel. My baby boy, he was amazing. He was the bright spot of my life. He struggled with mental illness. He was forgotten. He was always begging for a bed in San Diego County, begging for a place to live, to not be on the street. He just didn't get the help he needed. It wasn't there. The resources aren't there. And he struggled all of his life. His 32 years of life, my son struggled with mental illness. And I believe he was trying to self-medicate. And then all of a sudden comes fentanyl. And that was the end for him. Not one more chance, not one more moment, not one more phone call from my son. Because he's not here with us anymore, folks. And this is just one of many. I mean, this has got to stop.
Yes.
And I'm here to have a voice for my baby boy, Danny Dale.
Yes.
Who I love. And I miss him every day. Every day. Not a day goes by I don't think about Daniel. And how I just wish he'd call me to borrow money. A battery or something, just... This has rocked our world. And it's rocking our world. And it's not going to stop until we close down the open air markets. Enough of that. Shut them down. I want to see some more legislation come through. This is an epidemic of maximum proportion. And I feel that it's time. And so I'm so grateful for Mothers Against Drug Deaths for allowing me to speak today on behalf of my loved one. But I'm speaking for everyone's loved one today. Because they're all important. Every single one of them.
Yes.
Too many are being gone because of this stupid drug, and you know what? I'm sick of it.
Yes.
So I pray that my son is resting in peace and he's not struggling anymore with mental illness and trying to self-medicate. But I just pray that our voices are heard. I know the news is here, you know. Get out here and say, let's do something about this.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Michelle Leopold. I am a mother against drug deaths, and I'm a mom in everything I do. In 12-step meetings, someone with multiple reasons for being in the rooms is also often called a double winner. I'm a double winner today to share what fentanyl has stolen from me. And I'm grateful to share with you on this first ever National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. My first winning designation comes from being the owner of a beloved San Francisco landmark retail store, Standard 5 and 10 Ace in San Francisco's Laurel Village. My business card says I'm the mom of our mom and pop hardware stores since 1939. Just like other retailers across San Francisco, we've seen an uptick in shoplifting due to the fentanyl crisis and the drug situation in San Francisco, often by brazen groups who run in, grab as much as they can, and they run out to a waiting van ready to take off with everything that they stole inside. So I'm a loud advocate around fentanyls, sharing the message that one pill can kill. And the more I share, the more employees and friends confide in me that they have also lost a loved one to the fentanyl crisis. Because of this, I will be distributing the tools to prevent overdose at our hardware store later today, with free Narcan training for our employees and any interested customers and community members. So come by Standard 5 and 10 at 3:30 today and get some Narcan. And thank you to Glide Memorial for donating Narcan. But more importantly than stolen goods, fentanyl has stolen my forever 18-year-old son, Trevor. This is Trevor. Trevor became addicted to today's high-potency THC at age 15, and he was in several rehab programs during high school. But the disease of addiction is powerful, and despite having the tools and reinforcements and love around him to combat his disease, Trevor died in his dorm room at Sonoma State University on November 17th, 2019, from a dirty 30 oxycodone fentanyl. His drug of preference was cannabis, but he did experiment with other highs until fentanyl stole his life forever, as well as mine. We will never know what his future would have looked like, because fentanyl changes everything, and because, as his death proved, one pill can kill. When Trevor was alive, the story of his addiction was his to tell. Now that fentanyl has stolen him away from me and all who loved him, I feel compelled to do all I can to share Trevor's story and warn others of the dangers of illicit fentanyl. Activism focuses on young adults like Trevor and their parents, letting them know of lethal fentanyl-laced pills available over Snapchat and Instagram. And the pills were made for those with higher tolerance than 12-year-old Angelina from Concord, or 13-year-old Luca in Redding, or 17-year-old Zach in Rockland, and my 18-year-old son from Marin County. Sadly, I have become friends with a lot of these angel parents who lost their children because of one pill can kill. And devastatingly, so many of these parents never have heard the word fentanyl before their child died from fentanyl poisoning. A teenage child was experimenting with a Xanax or Percocet because of stress, or snorting oxycodone like Trevor to reach a higher high, or became addicted to fentanyl because of their previous heroin addiction. They are all our children, and they are all loved. And this is the most important message to know about the fentanyl epidemic. Worse than Russian roulette. With a gun, there is 1 bullet in 6 chambers. So you have a 5 out of 6 chance of living if you play that life-stealing game. However, in a situation like Trevor, with no tolerance for fentanyl, 2 out of 5 people die from the amount of illicit fentanyl in the pills that they buy, whether it's on Snapchat or from their trusted drug dealer. America needs to know that fentanyl is everywhere, and naloxone, Narcan, can reverse the fentanyl poisoning. As a hardware store owner, I joke that having a fire extinguisher doesn't mean you have an arsonist living at your house. Similarly, everyone should have the life-saving opioid reversal drug Narcan. And we need more than just the families of those affected to raise the rally cry around fentanyl. Thank you all for being here today and for sharing the important message that fentanyl steals our children.
100%.
At this point, I'd like to share the Serenity Prayer and then ask everyone to honor the memories of all those whose lives have been taken by fentanyl and other drug deaths with a moment of silence. Please join me if you know the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Today, it's the first DEA's, the Drug Enforcement Agency's first national fentanyl prevention and awareness day. It's a national issue. But I want to be clear. I'm a San Francisco mom. I've got 2 teens. I worry every day, like so many people here. This is it's a lot worse in San Francisco. The overdose death rate in San Francisco is almost 3 times what it is in New York City per capita, and twice what it is in LA. This is a San Francisco issue. As a voter, a mom, a citizen, I'm here because I think the community, it's time for the community to amplify our voices. We need change. We want to get our city back. I'm afraid fentanyl is stealing our city, and we're here to make that change. We so appreciate the supervisors who are here. District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, we super appreciate you. So yeah, I'm a mom. I joined Mothers Against Drug Deaths because I've got 2 teens here in San Francisco, and I worry every day about 1 pill that looks like Skittles that you see coming in these pictures in Snapchat. It's everywhere, and it's so pernicious. And as you may know, teens are among the cohort of that's the fastest growing among overdose deaths. So teens are dying at a faster rate than others. So I worry every day, and I join Mothers Against Drug Deaths to help rally for change. So today I just wanted to touch on, thank you. Today I wanted to touch on the 3 priorities of our group, Mothers Against Drug Deaths. Our first priority has been and continues to be close the open air drug markets. And we are so thankful for the supervisors today who've spoken on this topic, and we are also so thankful for Wade Shannon, the Drug Enforcement Agency's Special Agent of San Francisco, who's been speaking out for years now about the impact of San Francisco's open-air drug markets for not only fueling the crisis here, but spreading it to other communities. The DEA has tracked the flow of drugs from San Francisco to other places, including Humboldt County, where it has fueled addiction and overdose deaths. It's really time for us to close the open air drug markets. And today here we stand here with great hope that the city is beginning to do that under the new leadership of District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, in cooperation with our amazing supervisors, the police department, all the frontline workers, and of course under the leadership of Mayor Breed. We want to thank them for their amazing, courageous, hard, and essential work. Thank you. Our is ensuring that people have access to mental health and addiction treatment. And the surprising fact is that the number of people receiving mental health and addiction treatment services from the Department of Public Health, according to their own scorecard, which you can find online, then those numbers have been declining every year since 2017. 2017, lower in 2018, lower in 2019, lower in 2020, lower in 2021, lower in 2022. The receiving treatment, according to the Department of Public Health's own scorecard, has been declining, despite the investment, despite the good intention, despite all of the frontline heroic efforts. And we often hear that there aren't enough treatment beds, and surely there are not. But the reality is that we are not using many of the treatment beds that we have due to staffing issues, staffing shortages. Indeed, a CEO of one big treatment provider here in San Francisco said that 50% of their beds are vacant due to staffing shortages. And it is a heartbreaking story when you hear from a mother, which we have, about with their child, after going through all the paperwork to get into treatment and waiting their time to get an appointment, they arrive at the city's intake center and they're denied, their appointment is canceled because of staffing. This is something we can change. And so for this reason, we want to be 100% clear. Before the city considers an investment in safe consumption, which has other issues I won't get into, but we think it could have a role at some point, before we do anything else in harm reduction, we must complete the hiring needed for vacant positions so we can use the facilities we have. And now some of you may have heard about the Kaiser mental health workers striking. And we do not claim to understate the difficulty in hiring these critical staff. And we've all read about the frontline workers and heard from them about the overwhelming challenge due to the soaring need and the complexity of the situations they're dealing with. The drug cocktails are so complex, people don't know what they're addicted to. Some of the mothers who've had their kids go into treatment have go to realize their kids are addicted to 13 different things. And it's hard to diagnose, and it's really hard to treat. The longer we let it happen, the harder it is for our front line. And so it's it's totally understandable that the stress and overwhelm is incredible for the front line and the mental health and addiction treatment workers. But in part, it's our own doing. San Francisco, we partly have let this happen. So now we must find a way to address it. If we need to pay mental health workers more, then we should do that. Certainly, and certainly, before any investment in another harm reduction program, such as safe consumption. And I also want to say about mental health, while adding more staff will help, the time is right now for innovation to help satisfy the growing need. San Francisco has some of the most leading edge mental health scientists, practitioners, leaders in technology, incredible goodwill. We need to harness this to become visionaries about how to become a breakthrough place for mental health treatment. Let's do it. Let's do it. Why wouldn't we? And our third priority of Mothers Against Drug Deaths is shelter first, housing earned. And while everyone would like housing, first our view is that people need to be stable before they have permanent housing. They need the treatment before they go into housing, because the overdose risk is so high once somebody is in private housing. And furthermore, our view is that even while a house would be great, our view is that job training and upskilling may be better antidotes to addressing the despair and the dislocation that often drive people to use drugs. Not just in San Francisco, it's a national issue. Just recently, McKinsey released a study about the American labor force, and they found that even though there are 2 jobs open for every 1 person unemployed, people that aren't applying. And why not? They don't feel like they've got the skills. They don't feel like they've got the education. This gap is getting in the way of the economic engine that we always pride ourselves in as Americans. We need to enable people to achieve the American dream. We've got to unblock these barriers and help people get great jobs. So why wouldn't we, San Franciscans, rise to this occasion and come up with breakthrough new models for upskilling and reskilling, which would add a new source of vitality and growth to our city. Let's do this. So just to say again, we so appreciate your coming. We want this to be a positive future that we create together. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining Mothers Against Drug Deaths.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahsha Safai. I'm the supervisor from the Excelsior Outer Mission. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, it pains me so much to hear the stories of the mothers, of the families that have lost loved ones, that are losing loved ones to a drug crisis and a failed response. I want to thank Jacqui for being a consistent voice. She's not going to let this issue go away. I want to thank T. Wolf for being a consistent voice that can speak from his own experience about turning his life around. You know, when I came to this city 22 years ago, I started working in the Tenderloin. And I remember the day I called my mother, I said, "Mom, I just saw someone the same age as you with a needle in their leg wearing a diaper. What city did I move to? What's happening in this city?" I had never seen that type of drug addiction and despair ever in my life, and I had been all over the world. I had never seen it. But I have to tell you, what I see on the streets of San Francisco today is 1,000 times worse. 1,000 times worse. With impunity, drug dealers have sat on those blocks and pushed drugs that have killed more people in this city than COVID. That is a crime. Where's the leadership in this city? And I'm holding myself accountable. We cannot let more people die from drug overdose, from these kind of drugs, than COVID in the last 2 years. That is a crime. It's failed leadership in this city. I'm not here to pat myself on the back. I'm here to say we need to do better. We can't let people die like this. We can't let mothers come up here and beg for help. That's a sin. That is a sin. Let me tell you something. I want to point out Steve Adami. I know he's been given a shout out today. I've worked with that man, not with the Department of Public Health, not criticizing them, but with adult probation. We came in and said, what is the #1 reason people are being recidivists, being consistently arrested for crimes in this city over and over again? 75% of them had an underlying drug addiction. So we said, we are going to open up something that hasn't been done in the city in a long time. Abstinence-based treatment, drug-free environments. We opened up one in what we call the therapeutic community up there in Nob Hill. We opened up another one just a little while ago on Minna. We gave money to the Billie Holiday Center. We're pushing hard for a women's centered addiction treatment program. That is over, to your point, that is over 200 beds of treatment. And I can tell you right now, with organizations like Positive Directions Equals Change, people that were formerly drug addicted, helping current drug addicts turn their lives around, that is a path to success in the city. We need to be doing more of that. We need to be creating more models like that. I'm not here to criticize completely harm reduction. We need to have both options. We need to have options for people that say, I want to be in an environment that is completely drug-free. I want to get myself away from drugs and turn my life around. So let me just say to the man that's yelling and everyone else that came here today, this is an important rally. This is led by people that are feeling pain on a daily basis. And I'm here to say, I'm here to listen, I'm here to do better, and we're going to try and turn this crisis around in this city. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brooke Jenkins, and I'm the district attorney here in San Francisco. I've tried to make it clear for almost a year now that drug sales is not a victimless crime. And I think today really tells the story of how many people have been victims of this illegal conduct. That table over there, if it doesn't resonate with you, nothing will. That this city has lost that many San Franciscans, that many mothers have lost their children, that many brothers and sisters have had to bury their siblings to death of drug overdose. And that is not something as a city we can accept. That is not compassion. That is not who we are. And from day one that I took office, from the moment of my swearing in, I assured San Francisco that one of my top priorities would be preventing more people from dying, particularly of fentanyl. And the way that that has to happen, what's necessary for my office is that we begin enforcing the drug laws in San Francisco. Just a few weeks ago, I announced new policies with respect to the way that we will be handling drug sales cases, particularly fentanyl cases, and that no longer will we have decriminalized the sale of such a deadly and potent drug. We now will be making sure that those who sell these deadly drugs are held accountable, that they will not be allowed to exploit the alternative courts that are designed to help those who are struggling with substance abuse. That for those who have repeated conduct, who refuse to stop engaging in the sale of this lethal drug, who are in possession of large quantities of this drug, will be detained pre-trial if they cannot prove to us that they will stop. And that no longer will we see what was happening for the last 2.5 years, where they have been given dismissals and misdemeanors for taking people's lives. I am dedicated to doing my part as a chief law enforcement officer in this county, in this city. And what I can tell you is that already I've had multiple meetings with Chief Scott. My office has already met with his narcotics unit. I'm going to Tenderloin Station this week. We are going to make sure that no longer are we divided in this mission, but we are united to save lives. And both agencies are now doing their part to make that happen. And so just know that we will do everything to prevent more mothers from having to bury their children. I personally have had to bury my own child, obviously for a different reason. But let me tell you, that pain is still the same. And I don't want another mother to have to join this dreadful club that I'm a part of. And I want to make sure that it's clear, yes, we are in a war against fentanyl. We are in a war against making sure that our children don't get what looks like candy in their hands, but that will kill them. But we are going to make sure that for those who are struggling with substance abuse, that we get them help. This is not a war on addicts. This is not a war on people who are some of our most vulnerable San Franciscans who need help. We're going to make sure that we're getting them into the programming that they need. I'm going to use my voice to call for the increase in treatment beds that are lacking in our city. And so yes, again, this is a two-part issue. We've got to make sure that people struggling get the help. We cannot leave them on the street. We cannot leave them suffering. and that we will make sure that those who are supplying them these lethal drugs are held accountable. So thank you. Just know that we are committed, we are dedicated, it's a priority, and every single day we will be working to make this situation better.
Many of you know me. For those of you who don't, my name is Tom Wolf. I'm a formerly homeless, recovering heroin addict and fentanyl addict. And we've heard a lot from moms today, and I love you moms, and you have my undying gratitude for standing here, all of you, and speaking out. But I'm here to talk to you a little bit about my experience as being a homeless individual struggling with addiction in the Tenderloin, and what the drug market, what's really going on there. And I want to give you a little bit of history really quick. I was on the streets on Golden Gate and Hyde, 3 blocks away in 2018. At the time, fentanyl was just starting to hit the streets. I still remember one night being out there when there were 30 people laid out on Golden Gate Avenue, and all the drug dealers stood around and they were asking me, "Hey Tom, how come all these guys are all passed out and none of them bought any of my heroin?" Well, it's because they were going around the corner and buying fentanyl from somebody that was selling it down there. And none of the drug dealers were selling fentanyl, and they were all upset about it. It was cutting into their sales. Okay? My first experience with fentanyl was one night on Golden Gate Avenue. Somebody pulled up in a car, opened up the passenger door, and pushed a body out onto the street and said, "This guy's overdosing of fentanyl, you need to help him," and then he drove away. And we were all just standing there, and nobody had Narcan. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Somebody called 911, the cops came, and they tried CPR on the guy for 35 minutes, and he died right in front of me. My second experience was with someone whose name is on that white board over there. His name was Bear. Homeless guy. Nobody's gonna know about him or remember him, but I remember him. And the reason why I remember him is that the night that I was out there, it was cold. It was in February or March of 2018, and I had 2 jackets. And he was freezing, he was shivering. And I remember giving him my jacket because he was cold, and I said, "Here, wear that, man." And he wore it. And the next morning when I woke up, he was lying on the ground, dead. On his knees, laid back like that with a big smile on his face, wearing my jacket. He had turned blue, rigor mortis had set in, and we all freaked out because we didn't know what was going on, because we knew that heroin wasn't really going to do that to you. But fentanyl has changed the game. It has completely changed the game. I stand here before you in recovery. I've got 4 years clean and sober. I still ask myself every day why I was chosen to make it out, and so many people that are here in front of you on these stones and on that over there did not make it out. But I know how I made it out. I made it out because I was held accountable for the things that I was doing on the street. And ask anybody that's in recovery from addiction right now, and they will tell you that accountability is a cornerstone of recovery. It is a cornerstone of recovery. And it is something that we have removed, not just at the local level in San Francisco, but all the way up at the state level. We have dismantled our abilities to hold people accountable for the crimes that they commit and their addiction. And it doesn't mean they have to go to jail or prison. Accountability can also mean drug court. It can mean collaborative courts. It can mean rehab. It can mean recovery. And so I stand here before all of you today to let you know that there is a way out of the solution. And the way out of the solution for the thousands of people that are using out there on the street right now is recovery. Recovery from addiction. It literally frees you from this bondage that you put yourself in. Right? It has freed me. I've got my family back. I'm back home with my wife and kids. I could have never imagined that when I was out there on the street. Human beings, we need more. The folks out here on the street need more than just rehab and housing, and all those things are great. They need purpose. When I was on the street, I had lost all hope. I had given up. I didn't want to die of drug overdose, but I didn't care if I did.
And that's the issue that we're facing out there on the street right now. We need to find a way to give these human beings that are struggling in this addiction purpose. And how can we do that when last year, just in the Tenderloin neighborhood alone, the SFPD pulled 26.6 kilos of fentanyl off the street? How can we do that when San Francisco, which has a population of less than 3% of the state of California, has 10% of all the overdose deaths in the entire state? How can we do that? We have to take action. That means we have to hold drug dealers accountable, which is why I so appreciate DA Jenkins being here and speaking out. It's why I supported the recall. We need to change direction. This city is like adrift right now. And it's awash in debt. We cannot recover from COVID. We cannot recover economically if we're facing down 600 overdose deaths every single year in this city. It's just not going to happen. So we need every tool available to us. We need more treatment. We need more beds. We need all the harm reduction stuff. We need the kitchen sink to go into it, but we also must have accountability or none of it works. So I thank all of you for coming out here today to support the moms, to support their grief, to help them recover from an unbelievable, uncalculable loss, but to also support people like me that have found a way out, and to help raise our voices in recovery, to tell this city that there is a way out of this, and that way out is recovery. Thank you very much.
We'd like to thank everyone for coming to rally together on this first National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. Thank you to Supervisors Dorsey, Safai, Mandelman for suiting up and for showing up. It means so much to these families. And to DA Brooke Jenkins, thank you for taking the time to listen and to share your plan for a safer San Francisco. You have really given us hope. But most importantly, it's been our honor to hear these families share their real life experiences and to hear from community members that are also impacted by fentanyl and the open drug market. It's quite obvious that the status quo is not a tenable solution, and we truly appreciate everyone's bravery in speaking out today. Know that you're not alone. We hope that this rally starts a broader conversation about treatment, safety, recovery, and healing for us all. And if anyone is here who has lost a loved one, they are welcome to take a rock from the memorial, bring it home with them. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you.